Okay, so we have some agriculture news for you this week coming from the North Carolina General Assembly, and the North Carolina House Ag Committee has released their proposed text to the North Carolina Farm Act. And Stacy is going to talk about some of the provisions as well as I am about what we asked for and what we're supporting in this bill.
Yeah, so we're still taking a look at the bill and all of the provisions that are in it, but for this week we'll run through a few of the priorities that we have as an organization that are included. So the first one is to exempt agricultural land from stormwater fees. This section would use an existing definition within law and just say that city and county stormwater fees do not apply to bona fide agricultural land.
And the next section that we're in support of is amending the North Carolina Honeybee Act. When the Honeybee Act was passed in 1977, extraterritorial jurisdictions, or ETJs, did not exist. And all this section does is clarifies that these honeybee hives are not subject to regulation within the ETJ, only within the municipality.
On the shellfish front, we have some changes to rules and regulations around shellfish franchises and leases. It includes a clarification that franchises are not the same as leases and shouldn't be treated as such within the law. And then it also sets a time frame for DEQ to complete the review of new and renewal shellfish leases. So sometimes those are taking a bit longer than we would like, and this would create a timeline that they would have to do that review within.
And of course, we worked with them on that language as well. So
absolutely.
The next part is low-hanging communication lines. As the state acquires more federal funding for rural broadband, which we're advocate and fierce supporters of, the communities in rural North Carolina are getting more and more connected than ever before. However, as you know, there's been several instances of communication lines below the minimum height requirements, which creates a public safety hazard for our farmers. So this is simply language that would require a study to gather information about what's going on across the state.
And then finally, we worked with the North Carolina Port Council, the North Carolina Department of Agriculture, as well as the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission on some changes relating to feral swine. So we all know that feral swine are a huge problem in the areas that they have shown up in, and we'd like to eliminate them in those areas and keep them out of areas that they haven't made it to yet. So these provisions around feral swine would just enhance existing laws, beef up the enforcement and penalties for breaking existing laws, and just make sure that those practices that we know contribute to the spread of feral swine can be stopped.
Yeah, and there's 16 pages total of the bill, and the House Ag Committee plans to take it up next Wednesday for a vote, and then it will go through various committees after that to the House floor and then over to the Senate. So we will keep you apprised on all things Farm Act.
Yeah, and in the meantime, have a nice bacon cheeseburger over Memorial Day weekend and enjoy the time with your families.